Yeah, thank you. Good morning. My name is Son Gyoh, and I'm actually doing a doctoral research in the University of London, Institute of Education, University of London, in the area of development education, but specifically around how NGOs construct the knowledge for development and global poverty, and the implication for how young adults interpret, perceive, and respond to global issues. During the course of the presentation, you make the connection with, what I'm doing and the relevance to development education. A bit on what I do also with the UN. Actually, I do a bit of consultancy work in the area of renewable energy policy, sustainability policies, and how they can be integrated into the policy framework in most of the African countries, particularly in West Africa. When I was asked to do this introduction, I thought the what, why, and how of development education might be a good way to start. Because during the course of my research, I found that in the interviews and my survey, I found that a lot of teachers, students, and young people actually don't seem to be very familiar, with development education. Even as I've worked in the sector a bit, in Ireland here for about 7 years or 8, and we've done a lot of work. But still, I was surprised that, on the field, young people don't seem to know what it is. So I'm not too sure how it's integrated in the curriculum anyway. But I think we'll start with the what, why, and how. What is development education? Let me see. I hope I'm getting this right here. Okay, this way, yeah. Just a background, development education basically started or emerged through NGO work. NGOs trying to create more awareness about global issues, specifically also to help promote their campaign and charity work. But eventually, along the line, the Development Corporation, or what you call in Ireland is Irish Aid, DFID in the UK, try to figure how this can be used to improve skills, competencies for young people and the public generally to understand global issues, mainly to support policy around aid and development cooperation. So it's shifted from an awareness around global issues and supporting charity work to the development of skills and competencies in a globalized world. Because when they found that governments found that the globalized world is a place now where young people and people seeking for work have to know more about other parts of the world, the intercultural, multiculturalism, and interculturalism and all of that. So it was necessary now to begin to understand how to actually work with other people to to get a sustainable world. So from the development cooperation perspective, which is the policy on aid and global cooperation, it's seen as an approach to learning about global and development issues that emphasize the importance of linking the local and the global, so that anything that happens here basically affects other parts of the world, and things that happen in other parts of the world will affect you here. Not just in the area of the environment, but also in the area of humanitarian issues, disaster, natural disaster, wars, migration, and all that. So, and even for jobs, because a lot of the jobs now you find out are outsourced in Asia, India particularly. Most of the phone calls you put through to most of the, even the Irish companies, someone in India will be answering you. So, so events, anything that probably happens there will have an impact on how you live your own life here. So, and then secondly, it was also seen to stimulate critical thinking about, that provides the skills and confidence, for young people to act for a just, equal, and sustainable world. So the integration of this into education was to develop critical thinking so that people reflect on the perspectives they already hold and expand new ways of engaging with new knowledge coming from elsewhere, and the fact that the knowledge basically wasn't hierarchical anymore, or wasn't just here, but also knowledge could come from any other part of the world, and there were different forms of knowledges. It was also seen as an active learning that's founded on equality, inclusion and cooperation, global cooperation, equality, and all that, intercultural education and all that. Now, this idea of inclusion, equality, and cooperation came in from the wider definition from Europe, Development Education Exchange for Europe project, DEEP, which you will find online too if you want to know more about that. So it supports basically the human right aspects of it, and integrates it with sustainable development and all the challenges that come with interculturalism and so on. Now, so we could basically say that development education is now a set of concepts and values and principles, and not necessarily a discipline. It's not a subject-based thing, or it's basically a set of ideas, values, and built on certain concepts of equality, inclusion, cooperation, and the rest, that enables people to reflect critically and engage global development challenge, as well as embrace values of interconnectedness and interdependence, which we have mentioned here. So it relates to and intersects with global citizenship. You may have also heard of global citizenship. Development education basically intersects with that from an educational point of view, and sustainability, human rights, and intercultural education. And other variants of this field of knowledge is global learning, which the UK prefer to use global learning now with schools, teachers dealing with schools, because they fund development education to, some argue that it was prescriptive in terms of it had an agenda to shift the way people think or see global issues, rather than allow them to figure things out themselves. So global learning was more or less more watered down, a less agendaed form of development education. But basically, at the end of the day, it's saying the same thing. It's just more of an academic argument, in my opinion, because we will be seeing how we talk a little bit about global learning and how it, because a lot of these things happening in the UK has influence and impact in the way development education has evolved in Ireland. And in some ways, the research and work in development education seems to be a little bit ahead in the UK in terms of ideas, approaches that are adapted here in Ireland. Let's see. So, if anybody, I would like if anybody wants or has a different opinion or maybe something in addition to what I've said, because development education is not fixed; it's evolving. It's this fluid environment, and there are different definitions, different perspectives, but generally, that's why we say it's more of some ideas, principles, concepts, and values, because it can be defined in different ways. So you may have encountered some other definition somewhere. I'd like to share it if it's a bit different or if it's something to add on this. So I could include it in my knowledge process as well. Now, why DVED? Why development education? The imperatives of new global skills and competencies in a world that is ever more connected than, and then it also within the context of the increase in the movement of humans, between borders, cultural borders, and capital and investments. So it was seen as necessary for students and young people to develop some skills, some competencies on how to understand and make meaning of some of the statistics you see, so that you put a human face behind those statistics. And it's no longer like percentages when you're dealing with human beings and relationships between, unequal relationships between aspects of different parts of the world. Understanding the impact and implication of this movement across societies, the impact on society, the impact of environment as well. And then reflecting on the causes of these inequalities and how they manifest within and between nations. Its consequences on livelihoods, not just in the global south, but in the the developed world as well, because the economic recession or whatever happens now, like we see, right across from the United States to Europe, and events, the markets that are evolving in Africa, when the capacities are not there, and those markets are really can't bring the income or the opportunities for economies here to prosper. So it was then found necessary that young people, it should be integrated in somehow in the learning process, in the educational process, and the need also to act and think global in our everyday lives. They all talk about multicultural and interculturalism and all that, the recognition of pluralism in voices. Like I mentioned with my research, I actually wanted to find out how knowledge is constructed for development and global poverty, and who is making the decision, who is identifying the issues, who is making the interpretations, So development education also tries to project the fact that we live in a plural world where the knowledge is no longer hierarchical, but horizontal or more or less secular. So the knowledge process, there are different forms of knowledge, the disciplines, the fields of knowledge, the knowledge that is negotiated socially as well. So all this you find in development education, and these are the qualities which, as teachers, you're supposed to, transfer or share or negotiate with pupils. Yes, critical awareness, self-interrogation, held assumptions about other places and other people and economies, and all the issue about aid, effectiveness. How can we critically look at these issues? These handouts will be, Brenda will make it available. There are also some supporting notes that expand on some of these things. So it will be made available online, through electronic means. So I'll just move on, now, the how. I'll probably take the questions afterwards so that we don't get interrupted, right? As we move from what, why, and how. How do we incorporate these values, these principles, this concept into education as teachers? That's a difficult one now. That's been giving a lot of challenge to the sector. in because development education is more a field of knowledge and not a discipline, and not a subject-based knowledge as you would have geography, history, sciences, it becomes a bit challenging how to integrate this into schools. But rather, instead of taking them as add-ons. Now, introducing global themes have posed major opportunities and challenges for teachers in terms of approaches to incorporating into subject knowledge. It's been established from research that teachers engage in global themes, with these themes depend a great deal on their personal motivation. Because there's no template, I'm not aware there are specific courses that say or tell you how to integrate these things, or any textbook platform on how to integrate these things. A lot of it will now depend on the personal motivation from the teachers, how much they know and have engaged with these issues. And a lot is left to the teacher's initiative and interest, really. So it creates, unequal level, in different schools, in different environments, really. Because in one school, some teachers might be more motivated, might understand it in a different way. And because it falls on them to really access the resources and to find and make time to integrate it and how to integrate it. So a lot depends on really how you as teachers are motivated to make this contribution in the subject knowledge system. So that's been a challenge, and one in which in the UK several researches are being done and with specific knowledge such as subjects such as mathematics, sciences, religion, and geography. These are four main subjects where it's really has gotten into integrated into the subject knowledge system. Now, but it's been also found that when the real world situation, the lived experience is integrated into the subject knowledge, it makes it more interesting for young people because they're able to relate. The subjects are no longer abstract. Things like maths is no longer seen as abstract, or geography, but those figures they see, the figures they play around with, they can relate with it more because it's been given some sort of face, a human face behind it. So that's what development education would be able to do. It makes also people, the students, to understand and relate better with these things, and probably also perform better because when it makes more meaning and sense to them, they're able to apply it better. So, like I said earlier, the opportunities for incorporating them into the subject-based knowledge differs, in different environments and different schools. And each subject, it's been also known that each subject, the different subjects also offer different opportunities. Some might be more challenging, finding ways in which you can incorporate development education might be a little bit less straightforward than, say, for example, geography or religion, or the sciences which relate to environmental issues and all that. More on the how. This is just try to get a picture about the comparative ways in which the how has played out. Like I said earlier, the UK decided to approach it through global learning, and they came out with approaches called the global dimension, and lately there is Think Global, which is also a shift from the global dimension thing. In this way, students are encouraged to give a global dimension, to relate the local issues to global, to see how like we mentioned earlier, how the local affects the global, and they are made to think through these things about themselves, really. And when they make that connection, it becomes self-learning, and they're probably able to also explore in the internet more about these things. In Ireland, it's been pretty much open and less structured. They've adapted the global dimension from the UK to Ireland and think global, mainly through the NGOs and Ubuntu network and some umbrella organizations. So, and of course, very importantly, the One World Centers, I think, has been very strategic in Ireland in terms of organizing public lectures or public education, and developing specific and particular courses for teachers and students. And Irish Aid too has sponsored or funded quite a lot of materials from produced by Concern and Trocra. Some of those resources are available, and you can actually find them if you go to their website or give them a call. There are some materials that have been developed in how you can actually use and integrate some of these global dimensions into your work with the students. A lot of them too, like I said, are online. So there are quite some material there on how you can do that. So, but by and large, the challenge is that it's really up to teachers. A lot is left for the teachers to develop these things, and through their own shared motivation to be able to import these things into the subject-based knowledge. I think that's one of the biggest challenges, because teachers actually need a lot of support in that, and it's also good to know that there should be a way of getting the teacher's perspective on the difficulties and the challenges and the opportunities that might lie for development education to be integrated and incorporated in the subject knowledge. So it's still a learning and it's a learning process and evolving process, which teachers have a lot to offer, and I think a lot of that will, like I said, depend on your personal motivation, and if you see that there is something good, how you see that it's very important that that students are able to have a more vivid relationship or understanding of the subject you teach by giving it some lived or real life experience or pictures behind that. Now, like I said, in the UK, the mathematics, sciences, religious knowledge, and languages have been seen as a pilot area where it has been proven reasonably that the incorporation of development education can be helpful for students to inspire students to get more motivated and to get them more interested in the subject knowledge as well as global issues. So but of course, these are just areas which the research was done. I mean, there are other opportunities on all the subjects, really. So that's basically it. I hope I didn't go was it too fast? Is that okay? Okay. Okay, so that's basically, that's it. So